I'm sorry, Allison, but your behavior has become unprofessional. The word cracked through the air like a slap. I sat frozen across from Dean, my manager, while Marla from HR adjusted her glasses, not even looking at me. My heart pounded. Just yesterday, I was leading the quarterly presentation. Today, I was being escorted out. My jaw tightened. Unprofessional? Because I reported your messages? Dean smiled, slow, smug. Let's not make this harder than it already is. And that's when I realized, this wasn't a meeting. It was an ambush. I felt my face burn as HR slid the termination papers across the table. The wording was perfect, legal, sterile, impossible to argue against. Failure to maintain professional boundaries. Dean leaned back, pretending concern. I really hope you can reflect on this. I wanted to scream. Instead, I signed my name with a steady hand. As I stood to leave, Dean whispered, next time, maybe keep your personal feelings out of the workplace. He smirked, because he knew no one would believe me. Not yet. HR fired me for unprofessionalism, but then my emails hit the CEO's desk. My name is Allison Shaw, and this is the story of how I turned a company's own system against it. But to understand how it happened, you need to know what came before that meeting. Before everything burned, I was their golden girl. 3 years at Ryder MedTech, a mid-sized medical technology firm in Seattle. I ran operations for our research unit, long hours, early mornings, constant praise. Dean called me indispensable. He said I had the kind of initiative that gets you promoted. And maybe I believed him, at least until the compliments changed tone. It started after a late client dinner. Dean texted, "You really light up a room, you know that?" I laughed it off, awkwardly. Then came the follow-ups. "Drinks tomorrow?" "Just us, to talk about your growth plan." I ignored them. And the next week, my performance review suddenly needed improvement. Dean's tone shifted overnight. He'd correct me in meetings. Interrupt. Assign impossible deadlines, then forget he'd changed them. Still, I kept my head down. Every microdig, every maybe this project's too advanced for you, I absorbed in silence. Because women like me learn early, emotion equals weakness. But inside, something was coiling tight. 2 weeks later, he cornered me in the break room. "Hey, about that review, maybe I was harsh," he said softly. I stared at his reflection in the coffee pot. "Then fix it." He smiled. "Have dinner with me tonight and we'll talk about it." I set the coffee down. "Not happening." His jaw twitched, just once, before the mask slid back on. And that was the moment I knew I'd made an enemy. Small things started disappearing. Reports I'd written never reached upper management. Emails I'd sent were never received. Dean CC'd me on humiliating corrections in group threads. He said you're intense, one whispered. Another avoided eye contact altogether. Dean was poisoning the water. So when I finally went to HR, trembling but hopeful, I thought they'd see through it. They didn't. Marla from HR smiled too tightly as I laid out the evidence. Screenshots. Messages. Patterns. She nodded, then said, "We take these claims seriously." 2 weeks later, I was under review for professional conduct. They'd flipped my report into a weapon. That's when I stopped trusting the system and started building my own. Every night, I forwarded my entire inbox to a private encrypted drive. Every Slack thread. Every call summary. I started documenting everything, timestamps, attachments, metadata. No confrontation. No scenes. Just quiet, surgical precision. Because real revenge isn't loud, it's patient. Dean made sure my final project failed. He forgot to approve funding, then blamed me for delays. When he announced in front of the whole team that I was being re-evaluated for fit, the humiliation hit like a physical blow. I walked to the restroom, locked the door, and cried until my reflection blurred. Then I looked myself in the mirror and whispered, "Okay. You win the day. I'll win the story. When HR called me in for a follow-up meeting, I knew. Dean was waiting. They accused me of emotional outbursts, citing witnesses who didn't exist. Every word was rehearsed. So I stayed calm. I nodded, signed what they gave me, and walked out with my cardboard box. But before I left, I glanced back and said, "You might want to keep your emails cleaner." Dean frowned. He should have listened. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by folders. 4 months of documentation, every lie, every altered file. I highlighted inconsistencies, cross-referenced timestamps. Dean's expense reports? Duplicated receipts. HR's official minutes? Modified after I signed them. And hidden in the metadata of one PDF, Marla's name. They'd forged signatures. I didn't rant online. I didn't call lawyers yet. Instead, I spent 2 days organizing everything into a single email chain, chronological, color-coded, undeniable. Subject line, Writer MedTech, Internal Ethics Breach Documentation. Recipient, the CEO. CC, Legal. BCC, the entire board. My finger hovered. 1 click. Silence. Then my phone lit up, out of office auto reply, CEO traveling. I smiled. Perfect. Because that meant when she did open it, she'd be reading on a plane, with 4 hours and no distractions. 3 days of silence. Then, a single ping, request for follow-up conversation, urgent. The sender? The CEO's assistant. My stomach flipped. Dean's LinkedIn? Quiet. Marla's status? On leave. Something was moving. 2 investigators showed up at the office. Dean tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. Then they pulled up the Slack threads, the ones I'd preserved. The look on his face when they saw the timestamps was pure poetry. He stammered. They recorded. By Friday, Dean's office was empty. His nameplate gone. HR was under internal restructuring. Coworkers whispered. Some messaged me privately, "You were right." I didn't reply. I wasn't done yet. The CEO herself called me. "Allison, I reviewed everything. I'm appalled. We owe you an apology." She offered reinstatement, back pay, and a public statement. I said I'd think about it. Because the truth was, I already had something better lined up. Turns out, the ethics committee chair, the one who received the email, was part of my grad school network. She told me quietly, "Your documentation didn't just expose Dean. It opened a full HR audit. They'd been falsifying reports for years." My file became Exhibit A. The story hit the local business news. Writer MedTech launches internal investigation following whistleblower email. No one knew it was me. But everyone who needed to know, did. Dean's reputation evaporated. Marla resigned for personal reasons. And I slept better than I had in months. A month later, I got an offer from a rival firm, senior operations consultant, salary double. At the interview, the director said, "We read your references. You handle crisis well." I just smiled. If only they knew. Dean tried to reach out once, through LinkedIn. Would appreciate a conversation. I deleted the message without opening it. Because sometimes the loudest statement is silence. The last time I checked, Dean runs a career coaching service online, selling leadership skills. Marla's LinkedIn vanished. And Writer MedTech issued a new ethics policy named after the case file, the Shaw Protocol. My name. The irony isn't lost on me. Sometimes, you don't need to shout your revenge. You just need to write it, cleanly, clearly, and hit send. If you are just coming across this YouTube channel, please subscribe.